We are Anka. Stay tuned for updated real news.
Hello, Anka Daily News viewers. We continue to share with you the most striking moments of the war and the latest developments in the field. As the intensity of the clashes increased, there was a major loss that could change the balance of the war. During the last operation, the Russian army suffered one of the biggest casualties in recent times. Russian forces, which lost almost 1,000 soldiers and many tanks, will most likely feel the effects of this blow for a long time. As you know, the course of the war is determined not only by the clashes in the field, but also by the losses of the parties and how much they can compensate for these losses. Such heavy losses during a major operation shake not only military strategies but also economic balances. This is because modern warfare is based not only on firepower but also on a sustainable logistical and economic support mechanism. So, will Russia be able to cover these losses, or has the burden of war become too heavy on the shoulders of the Russian army? We'll seek answers to these questions. We'll examine in detail both the developments in the field and the most up-to-date information on the economic dimension of the war. We'll evaluate the impact of Russia's losses on the general course of the war and its military and economic consequences. The destruction, the destructive face of the war once again showed itself, and the Russian army lost almost 1,000 soldiers during a single operation. It's also reported that a large number of tanks were destroyed. This is not just a momentary loss, but a development that could have a direct impact on the combat capacity of the Russian army. So, what impact will these heavy losses have on the course of the war? How will Russia respond to this blow? What could be the consequences of this great loss in military and economic terms? We'll discuss the answers to all these questions and the latest situation of the war in detail. Now, let's take a look at the developments together. Before we get to our report, though, a quick reminder. The Anka Daily News team is definitely real. None of my teammates or me are artificial intelligence. Even though AI is very advanced, it's still not as good as us. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our daily reports and explanations. We do read all the comments you leave on our videos, so please continue to share your ideas about our content. Tell us in the comments what content you'd like to see on the Anka Daily News channel. And now let us begin if you're ready. Anka Daily News reports. According to the latest information coming directly from the field, the Ukrainian army continues its effective operations against the Russian occupation forces. Point-blank strikes organized at midnight have led to a massive destruction of the enemy lines. The Pomsta Revenge Brigade, known as one of Ukraine's deadliest units on the battlefield, continue to inflict heavy losses on the enemy. The Phoenix attack UAV unit of the brigade carried out deadly raids on critical points on the Russian front line, targeting both armored vehicles and enemy personnel. In this context, a BTR-82A of the Russian army was destroyed by a precision strike by Ukrainian UAVs. But this was only the beginning. Ukraine's Phoenix strike UAV unit neutralized a dozen Russian soldiers in a single wave of strikes and crippled the enemy's surveillance systems. In particular, one of Russia's UAV control points was completely destroyed by pinpoint strikes. This operation greatly weakened the ability of Russian troops to conduct reconnaissance, while at the same time giving Ukrainian troops a new tactical advantage. UAVs, which tracked the movement on the front line moment by moment, made it difficult for Russian troops to retreat. Desperate enemy soldiers were trapped in the trenches they found. Before the Russian army could fully realize the devastation caused by the drone attacks, Ukrainian troops launched a much larger scale attack. Special operations units launched a new offensive, sneaking in close to Russian positions. This wave of attacks, supported by intensive air support, caught the Russian troops completely off guard. In particular, the destruction of the BTR 82A caused a major morale collapse in the Russian armored units, because this vehicle provided vital protection for the Russian infantry. However, as a result of the precision attacks of the UAVs, the armored vehicle was completely destroyed along with its crew. While Russian soldiers tried to flee in panic in different directions, Ukrainian artillery units shelled the enemy escape routes. The successive artillery shelling became a death trap for the Russian soldiers trying to retreat. A Russian convoy was targeted by storm howitzers during the retreat. At least 3 BTRs and a lorry in the convoy exploded. While the flames rising from the vehicles illuminated the sky, the panic-filled calls coming from the radios of Russian soldiers once again revealed the true face of the war. Ukrainian troops not only targeted armored vehicles but also hit Russia's supply lines behind the front lines. A refueling depot belonging to the Russian army was blown up by pinpoint strikes by UAVs. This attack severely disrupted the fueling of Russian tanks on the front line. Tank crews became immobilized on the battlefield due to lack of ammunition and fuel. This situation meant a new opportunity for Ukraine. In the following hours, Ukrainian troops began to track down the tanks immobilized on the battlefield one by one. Especially the raids organized by the Pomsta Brigade caused a serious morale collapse among the Russian soldiers. The unabated attacks of the Ukrainian army has the potential to completely collapse Russia's defense lines in the region. According to preliminary information from the field, at least more than 20 Russian soldiers were killed, more than 10 military vehicles were destroyed, and a critical UAV control center was destroyed in the last 24 hours. All these developments point to a major change in the course of the war. Ukraine's effective operations are frustrating Russia's advanced plans, while at the same time paralyzing the logistical support of the Russian army. It's a matter of great curiosity what kind of strategy the Ukrainian army will follow in the coming days. However, one thing is certain: the Russian army is losing more and more casualties every day, and the balance on the front continues to change in favor of Ukraine. Recent developments reveal that the Ukrainian army is increasing its effectiveness on the front line day by day. The pinpoint attacks carried out by the Pomsta Brigade and the critical targets destroyed by the Phoenix attack UAV unit are becoming important factors determining the course of the war. This destruction, especially on Russia's defense lines, greatly weakens the maneuverability of the enemy forces on the front line. Reports from the battlefield indicate that Ukrainian troops are increasingly spreading their operations over a wider area. The logistical crisis experienced by the Russian army is not only limited to immediate losses, but also has a negative impact on long-term war strategies. The destruction of fueling lines restricts the mobility of heavy armored units, facilitating Ukraine's advance. In addition, the destroyed UAV control center seriously undermines the reconnaissance and surveillance capabilities of the Russian army. How do you think Ukraine's latest operation will affect the course of the war? Do you expect Russia to make a new move in response to these losses? Let us know in the comments. We read and care about your points of view.